Greetings, dear viewers, and welcome back to another episode of Game Sharks. I am one of your hosts, Jimmy Good, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Cory Laing. Cory, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Welcome home.
Thank you.
It's good to have you back in the studio.
I am so thrilled to be back here.
Yeah.
And while QC is still allowing us to do this show, we can't do it for 8 hours, as I would like to do.
Right.
But we are doing a year-end wrap-up video. We're talking about our top 5 games of the year. Now, I want to do a caveat here because people are going to be like, why didn't you talk about this game or that game? We're going to each talk about games that we played. I didn't play every single game. I wish I could have, but that's okay because I'll probably get around to them eventually. So don't worry, certain games, I'm coming back. But we're starting, I think we're going to go in ascending order, if that's okay, unless you have no particular order. My list is very, going from the bottom to the top.
Sure, I like that.
Yeah,
start with number 5.
Yeah, start with number 5.
Yeah.
What's your number 5 from this year?
Well, just like you said, this year was remarkable. I mean, my list could have changed dramatically if I would have gotten to Alan Wake 2,
sure, yep.
Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, we had a new Assassin's Creed game this year that I never even touched. And in a year that Zelda came out, I just have to say, it didn't make my list because I just, quite frankly, there was so many games to get to. Yeah, so it was a crazy year, but I managed to get 5 games together. So
that's great. So so starting at number 5 for
right.
you in the bottom, what is the very first one that you're going to talk about?
Well, we had 3 big remasters this year.
Yes.
Right. We had Resident Evil 4 remake.
Yep.
Dead Space remake.
Yes.
Neither of those made my list. I'm going with Metroid Prime Remastered.
What? I didn't expect this at all.
And I know the great debate. Oh, does a remaster count, right?
Sure.
Does a game that came out for the GameCube in 2002, the year I graduated from high school, which is depressing to admit, but anyways, yeah, it made the cut, right? Because Nintendo did such an incredible job with this game. I played the Dead Space remake, I played the RE4 remake, and those are very much prettied versions of those games, polished versions, for lack of better words, where I felt they took an old, not unplayable game, but an extremely outdated game, right?
Yeah.
The debate back then was, is it actually a first-person shooter?
Yeah, right.
Based on the controls of that original game. It was the classic run, stop, move Samus around. Now they added full dual joystick first-person shooter controls. Yeah, so they did a great job. It's still that same game, but it's extremely pretty. It's probably the best looking Switch game, if gun to my head, if I had to say. They did a great job on the art style. And yeah, it's a true first-person shooter this time.
That's great to hear.
Yep, so it feels like Halo, feels like Call of Duty, high frame rate, and I never finished that game back then.
Neither did I, because I hated the controls. I hated the controls. A Metroid Prime, people were like, it's one of the greatest games on GameCube. It's was inverted gun, or maybe I had it wrong or something.
Yeah.
I'm just no good at Metroid Prime.
They didn't stick to the true first-person shooter landing, right?
Yeah.
The controls were a little wonky. But in terms of story exploration, sound design, boss fights, it was incredible. Yeah. Right? It was a mind-blowing game for the time, and they made that game playable to me. So I was like, sweet, this is awesome. And they dropped it in a direct. I was like, and it's out today. I was like,
there you go get it.
Holy crap. So anyways, just to wrap up my thoughts, Metroid Prime, it was certainly worthy of the top 5 this year. Whether the debate is, does it belong in a game of the year category because it came out 20 years ago? I would say yes. Yeah. Just from the sheer amount of effort they put into this game. And I honestly, I think I just sat and binge played that game for 3 days, start to finish. I couldn't get enough, and I loved it.
That's cool.
So, Metroid Prime.
Well, that was the first perspective shift with the Metroid games, right? Besides doing kind of the 2D running and gunning.
Exactly.
To switch it to a first person.
Yep.
Which is kind of amazing, honestly.
Totally. Yep. It was mind blowing for the time, and it was Retro Studios, so they moved that out of the internal Japan studio, right, from the old school games. And so the only time you switch to third person is in and out of the ball movement.
Sure. Yep. I remember that.
Yeah. Samus will shift into the ball, and there's all that stuff. So check it out. It's awesome.
Cool.
And the biggest thing at the end of the day is they made it playable, which just ratcheted the level of enjoyment. So
cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Good to hear.
Yeah. How about you?
Okay, so I'm kind of sticking in the same vein as you because I've been that person in the past where I'm like, are remasters or remakes even like a new game? You know what? On this show, we're counting it. Super Mario RPG, baby. Dude, I never played this because I never had a Nintendo or NES, I should say, or an SNES.
Yeah.
So I came in at like the N64 times.
Yep.
And this was like a game that was always kind of legendary to me because not only was it an RPG starring Mario, but also Bowser was on your team. And I love the Koopa King.
Yeah,
I love him. And getting to play this has been so fun for me because you can tell it's still like an old game, even though I'm pretty sure they started from the ground up again to make it, or at least it seems like that's the idea, but it still has that kind of like, there's only so much you can interact with the world and all that, but it's so cute. Like the kind of, I want to call like chibi, like they're kind of cute, like Mario's tiny and kind of chunky, like, but it's so funny and it's a Square Enix game.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of like fun writing and jokes about RPGs in the game too.
Right.
Which is amazing. I was like, okay, there's so much to enjoy. It's so jolly. It's so easygoing. But it is very much that old school style where it doesn't really hold your hand. And it's like, well, you got to pay attention because if they said something, there's not like a shining yellow beacon, at least for me, that's like, go over here, do this now. It's like, oh, okay. So I have to like, I have to be like kind of invested. Whereas like, the Ubisoft games is just, I was playing Far Cry 6 recently, and it's like, just go to the yellow dot. Like, I was like, okay, sometimes I love that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's such a fun game, and I love the idea of adding these new characters, not only with Mario, Peach, and Bowser as playable, but Mallow and then Geno.
Okay.
And so you have a party of 5, and these are 2 characters that people wanted Super Smash Brothers for a long time.
Interesting. I'm not familiar with these characters.
Yeah, they're kind of niche characters. So Mallow is
put him
like,
up on the screen.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's like a little cloud man, and he's got like these, like he's got like little lightning attacks, little healing attacks, and he can kind of stretch out his arms. But what ends up happening is you can end up getting like weapons for them, so they're not just unarmed combat. So you can have different attacks, and there's timing to it too, to like land better attacks to not only do more damage, but then like you can spread the attack to other people, even if it's just like it's like a shockwave. So if Mario hits with his hammer well, shockwaves out.
Cool.
And that reminds me of a game I used to love called Legend of Dragoon.
Yes.
Where it's all like kind of like the fighting was like, all right, you go up and attack, and it's not like other games where you just like say, all right, attack, cloud attacks. It's like, no, you have to hit the button at the right time.
Interesting.
So
there's a little mini game element.
Little mini game element, totally. Yeah, to make your attacks and spells and stuff more over the top. And Geno is this puppet man who's really cool. Everybody seems to love Geno. He's like this kind of edgy, weird, very square RPG character.
Cool.
And I was like, man, I could see where I was like, maybe in the next Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other idea I love about, we're talking about Metroid Prime and Super Mario RPG, is that when we have these come out, it feels like a test bed for like, do people still like this?
Right.
And it's like, are they going to make sequels?
Yep.
Like, obviously, Metroid Prime has had sequels and stuff, but Super Mario RPG hasn't.
Yeah, it's kind of been locked into that SNES platform.
Yeah, which I would be really curious to see what kind of modern updates they could add to it, because clearly you can tell, like, they could have done it.
Yeah.
And, like, what they have these, like, little cinematic, like, super special attacks for, like, when you have 3 people out in a party at one time, and they all have, like, a special, like, team-up move.
Got it.
And they're cool cinematics, very, RPG Square Enix stuff. But that kind of stuff, I'm like, I wonder where we could take this.
Yeah.
Or branching skill trees for, abilities and all that on top of it. I really enjoy it, and it's just been such a cheerful, like, easygoing game.
Yeah.
And I like it a lot, and it's a great entry point for people like me who missed out on this a couple decades ago.
Right.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Good pick.
Thank you.
This is definitely on my list. Again, what a crazy year.
What a crazy year.
This one just slipped right by me. And it's definitely on my list, just like Pikmin 4, too. Those are 2 big first-party games that came out this year that I didn't get to.
Yeah.
I've dabbled in that SNES version here and there on different iterations of like Virtual Console, and they've had it up on different platforms over the years, but I've never finished it. So I think this would be a great way to play that game.
Check it out if you can. Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Check it out if you can. All right, so those are our number 5s.
Okay.
Now what's number 4 for you?
so number 4, gosh, I gotta look at my list.
Yeah, look at his
so
list.
embarrassing.
I know it's okay. It's all right. Stack to yours.
I know the 5. I just need to know the
The order. Yeah.
I need to know the order.
I get you.
So number 4 for me is Mario Wonder, sticking with Nintendo.
Nice.
We have 3 Nintendo.
Cool.
Oh, what a killer year for Nintendo. Holy crap.
Nintendo, man. They just
amazing.
So good.
Yeah, and again, I didn't even play Pikmin 4, which I've heard people really love.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I'll have to get to that eventually, but yeah, so Mario Wonder, I was actually just trying to wrap it up last night for this conversation.
Sure.
I'm right at the end. I'm just going back and kind of cleaning house with the Wonder Seeds.
Oh, cool. Nice.
And that's the new big hook, right? So, yeah, so this is a zany, super inventive, kind of just bonkers 2D Mario game, right? So they ditched the timer.
Okay,
Which is
nice.
awesome,
Thank goodness.
which is great. So it gives you room to breathe, and it allows you an opportunity to explore the levels a little bit more, which makes a lot of sense for the Wonder Seed. So hence Mario Wonder. So basically, each stage they bury anywhere from like 1 to 3 Wonder Seeds, and these are hidden collectible objects that you have to seek out, which adds a lot of depth and fun to the levels. So rather than just 2D. Point A to B, jump on a bunch of Koopas. They totally threw that formula out the window, and it's a lot of fun. First of all, obviously, it's actually really gorgeous too. Like I'll put up some B-roll on screen, and it's really long. Like so, you got 8 primary worlds with additional hidden levels, and so basically, you need to collect like X amount of seeds to unlock this dungeon. X amount of seeds to unlock this dungeon. And after you complete those dungeons, it'll unlock one central main dungeon. Spoiler alert, that's where Bowser's gonna be.
Sure, yeah.
It's not rocket science there, but you know.
If it isn't broke.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a 2D Mario game with a bunch of new features, and then they introduced kind of like an RPG system called like badges. And so there's a new currency in this game. They're like these new pink coins. So that's another thing you want to collect. And there's a shop, and like which really reminds me of like the old school Donkey Kong Country, where you go visit the shopkeeper and you can buy things. So they're totally doing that. So and you can buy these badges, which unlocks. You can equip like additional skills for each level. So whether that skill is, you fall in lava, well, you get one opportunity to bounce out of the lava.
Okay, cool.
Or you get like a super jump, or Mario starts with a instant mushroom, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they kind of RPG'd it a little bit, which is kind of cool. And I think there's like 10 or 12 playable characters, which is quite a lot. Yeah, each one has kind of their own little ability, and you know, Peach floats, which is kind of a tribute to the old school game. She floats with her dress, and there is co-op, which I haven't tried, so I've just primarily been playing single player.
Is Bowser playable? Do we know this?
I do not think Bowser is playable, unless that's like a New Game Plus thing.
Call me later, Nintendo, all right?
Yeah, so it's like your classic, like Mario, Luigi, Peach, you know. I could put up on the screen some of the playable characters. But heck of a year for Nintendo.
Heck of a year.
You know, this is a game that I was expecting to be good, but I wasn't expecting it to be great. So, number 4, Mario Wonder.
I'm hoping this inspires the Mario team and Nintendo for, like, you know, Odyssey. A lot of people love it. I think it's pretty good, but I'm kind of waiting for like that next, like the innovation of it. And this seems like with the Wonder Seeds, like maybe they'll be inspired by this. Maybe not put Wonder Seeds to do an open world Mario game, but who knows?
Well, they kind of dabbled with that Bowser's Fury, which came out like last year, which was kind of like a little 5-6 hour open world Mario game.
It's coming.
So it is.
It's coming.
It's a cool idea. It's a really
On
cool.
its way. Nintendo, I know it's happening. I know it's happening.
So Mario Wonder number 4 for me.
Well, that's a great pick because I'm going to go in the complete opposite direction.
All right.
I'm going to go with a dark turn, or should I say a dark tide?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Warhammer Dark Tide. Okay, so it finally came to like Game Pass, you know, this year. And this is a game that is like the complete antithesis of a Super Mario. It's like first-person shooter, grim, dark fantasy, or I should say a future, and just a devastating, brutal video game that is all about co-op. And I love that. I grew up on Left 4 Dead. Like, I remember renting that from Blockbuster and like trying to get multiple copies. And like that was like a whole thing on the weekends. Like, how many copies do you get? Like, one, we need two. And that's kind of the continuation, I feel like, of the franchise, even though they did Back 4 Blood and stuff. But this is a different group who's done the Vermintide games, and I enjoyed those games a lot. But for something like this, I don't know. I really like Warhammer, the 40K stuff, the space stuff. And I played a good long chunk of this game, and it's just as meaty and creepy as Vermintide was, with more of an emphasis on gunplay, I would say, as opposed to Vermintide. And it was one of those things where, like, it's so dependent on your team. Not only the makeup of the characters and, like, your special abilities, but also just being like, all right, Cory, there's something pinning me down. Please come and get rid of it. Handle it for me.
Right.
You know? But such a bloody game. Such a weird game, and I like it so much.
Yeah.
And it feels like they streamlined the process a lot, because in Vermintide 2, it felt really hard, at least for me, to get, like, later game progression. It seems like this game found a way to do it and also have branching skill trees that they allow. It seems like more games are doing this, where they allow you to, like, go down a tree, and then they're like, at any time, you can just take those out and then, like, you know, change it. We want you to experiment with it. Versus feeling locked in, you know, Diablo 2 style, where you're like, I made a mistake.
This is it.
Like, this is, I'm committed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just have found a lot of fun with that. And again, playing with friends, that is the linchpin to this, because I have played with randos before, just complete strangers, which has been fun, because some of the people, like, in a game like this are usually pretty on point. Like, they know what to expect.
Right.
But it's way better to be on comms with somebody. Like, I need you to get over here. I need you to help me if this is a problem. And it feels infinitely replayable, you know, because there's always something new. Even if you played the levels before, you know, hordes come at different times, specials come at different times, different team makeup, different weapons, all that stuff. I just really like this game. It seems like a perfect Game Pass game. Just a perfect Game Pass game. And I really enjoy it. So, but again, I'm a Gears guy, so like I'm like, anytime I get, like, you know, a chain sword or something like that.
Rip and tear, baby.
Rip and tear, or this Psyker. I made him basically into Emperor Palpatine. So I was like going around like lightning and just like, you know, unlimited power, you know, that kind of thing. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, Dark Tide, man.
Well, I had an opportunity to play this with you.
Yeah, exactly. We played a little bit.
It was pretty brief. It was pretty brief. Not enough for me to really form a hard, concrete opinion. But I remember having a lot of fun. Well, it's a game. Again, we keep saying this year that I would love to go back to. And get some co-op in, so
it'll happen.
Yeah,
it'll happen at some point, I think, and it's gonna be there, you know. And that's the nice thing about it. It is there, and it's not like
it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. But yeah, I enjoyed our time together. But it's one of those things where it's like, it is a little tricky, because at first it's like, all right, you know, how's the melee work? You know, how's the gunplay work? What do I want to focus on? But we'll get back to it.
Yeah, awesome. That's a good pick.
Thank you. So those are our number 4s.
Nice. Okay. Well, we had to end the Nintendo parade at some point.
I was like, I'll do it. I'll be the guy who does it.
We need the blood and guts at some point.
Exactly, a little bit. Yeah, exactly.
Someone's got to get the job done.
Okay, so now we're in the top 3.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're getting there.
I know everybody who's made these games is like waiting at home with bated breath. They're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
like, there's the Game Awards and there's Game Sharks. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We eat the Game Awards.
Yeah,
sorry,
Insomniac is watching patiently. Are they going to talk about Spider-Man 2?
Please.
Yeah.
So what's your number 3?
Well, it's Spider-Man 2.
It's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So, yep. So I haven't finished it.
Yeah.
I'm probably 80% of the through the game.
Great.
If I had to guess. So yeah, they're doing the GTA 5 thing here, where you're switching characters.
Yep.
So they did Spider-Man back in 2018.
Yes.
2019.
2018. It was the crazy year.
Right.
Red Dead Redemption, Monster Hunter World, God
That's
of War.
right.
Yeah.
Spider-Man was my game of the year that year. This year's number 3.
Cool.
And it's not a bad thing.
Sure.
It's still a great game.
Stacked year.
That's right. Back to the character switching thing. So, you know, back in that original game, they had not introduced Miles yet.
Yeah.
They did that later in 2020 with the launch of the PS5. That was just kind of a side thing. Wasn't really DLC. It was kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
I love that game. It's great. It's short. So now they have both characters.
Yeah.
So they're kind of interweaving each character with their own story, but also there's some, like, it's hard to... how do you describe playing 2 characters simultaneously? Is that like single player co-op? Is
Yeah.
that how you would say that?
Yep. Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Where it's like this dynamic jump between each character and action sequences.
Yeah.
Anyways, Insomniac handles it really well.
Oh, good.
So, they do the thing where you're in an action sequence together, you're switching between characters, but also each character has their own story. So you'll play a couple missions as Peter, you'll play a couple as Miles. But then also what I really enjoy is there's like these downtime periods where there's really nothing urgent to do,
Okay.
where you can choose. Like,
Sure.
oh, Miles has his own play style with the electricity.
Yeah.
He has his own skill tree, his own move set. I want to do that for a while.
Yeah.
I want to play as classic Peter.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Peter and do the classic Spider-Man thing, right? So I think Insomniac does a really good job balancing that.
Okay.
So Kraven the Hunter, he's kind of the primary villain.
guy.
He's the bad guy. And he is very menacing, very intimidating. You get your butt kicked several times, which just kind of sets up this, like, he's not messing around thing. So, not to really spoil anything, Kraven kind of sets up his goons, for lack of better words, right, in New York.
Yeah.
So there's this big threat, right? Kraven's in town, and it's up to Peter and Miles to kind of figure out, the best course of action. So that's the setup of the game.
Sure.
Other than that, it's more of the same. It's gorgeous. They're doing the ray tracing, the whole HDR open world. It's beautiful. Nothing really revolutionary there.
Okay.
It's kind of more of that.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then this is not really a spoiler. I think this is kind of public knowledge. You have Harry as Venom now.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that because it wasn't like completely spoiled, but I know that he may or may not have some time where you get to maybe control
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. So I won't get into it. They do some really cool stuff with Venom that I very much enjoyed.
Make him playable, baby.
I have not finished the game. I've heard rumors they're going to set up Carnage. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Spider-Man 3, if I can play as Venom. Like, I don't know. Like, I love Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Miles is cool too, but like,
Right.
if I could play as Venom, it's like that Ultimate Spider-Man game. Remember that one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and he
Yep.
plays Venom.
Yep.
I want to play as
You're
Venom.
going to be really happy with this.
Cool.
You're going to be very happy.
Cool.
So, yeah, just to finish my thoughts, it's a great game.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's, if you already played Spider-Man and Miles, you're probably not going to be too blown away by like the visual fidelity. It's kind of more of that. Maybe just like an extra layer of polish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's great. I love it.
I have a question quickly about, because this is in the first game, and I think it's in this game too. There's like some kind of like, you play as other characters, like stealth kind of side missions.
Okay.
Do you remember those at all? Like, I think there's like, I've heard there's like Mary, like plays Mary Jane.
Yes.
Are those missions fun? Are those cool?
Yeah, so I have played one of those,
Okay.
and it is with Mary J.
Okay.
And it is a stealth mission,
Gotcha.
and it was fine.
Okay, it's fine. Okay. I was just curious because I know they try to break up the gameplay.
Yeah, man, look, like, it's fun to play as Spider-Man.
It's hard not to.
So I understand them trying to break the flow there a little bit, but why bother?
It's like Assassin's Creed. Remember, like every
Yeah.
time they pull you out of the Animus, you're like, put
Yeah.
me back in, put me back in.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and so I've only done one of those missions, and it was fine.
Okay, yeah.
But it made sense for the story.
Gotcha.
So the reason they do that, it makes sense. So at least that's a good thing.
I want a flashback where I play as Uncle Ben grocery shopping or something, and they're just like, remember when you went to go shop, Uncle Ben?
Yeah.
It's like a sepia filters for some odd reason.
Yeah.
But still, an amazing game.
It's amazing. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It didn't make my top cut for number one, obviously, because it is more of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, anyways.
One of these days, I'm gonna get that PS5, Corey. And when it happens, I'm hoping there's a bundle between Spider-Man 2 and Miles Morales, because I didn't play Miles yet.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm waiting for it all to come together.
Right.
And then I can play it and then be ready for 3.
Right.
I just need Green Goblin. He's my favorite.
I don't know if this is true. I have not finished the game. I've heard he will be the next big baddie in the next game.
He should be the finale. He's
Right.
the true ultimate evil for Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate on rumors. I have not finished this game, but the other rumor is that the next big playable character is Silk, which see, I don't know. I haven't finished this game, so we'll see where it goes. But
I want to play as Green
I have
Goblin.
mixed feelings on the
Okay.
whole Silk thing.
I
But
say if we do Green Goblin, you know what we could do eventually? They could do their like Suicide Squad game. That isn't Suicide
Yeah.
Squad, but doing like
Right.
there's the Thunderbolts or something.
Right.
Venom, Goblin teaming up.
yeah. We'll have to save this for another day. I know we're
Yeah.
limited on time, but
I
there was
know,
some
that's true. Yeah, I was
Insomniac
like-
leaks that came out recently. I don't know if you heard about all
No,
that,
I
but
didn't hear that. No.
It seems very much that Sony and Marvel are building their own video game MC
Oh, that's amazing.
with Wolverine and
cool.
Spider-Man. So I think there's some exciting things coming up.
Cool.
Anyways.
Looking forward to that Hulk and/or Ghost Rider game. Let's.
Yes. Yeah.
Please.
Bring it on.
Please. Okay. So that's your number 3.
That's my number 3.
You kind of mentioned my number 3 earlier in a way,
Okay.
little bit, but I have to talk about Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
An incredible game,
Mm-hmm.
truly incredible game. And like this kind of fights for like the top 3, like maybe even top like 2 spot for me, because I look at this game and I remember kind of playing it, and like Spider-Man, I was like, I've had this before. It's kind of like having a really amazing meal by like a chef, and you go back and you have another one and you kind of know what to expect, but it's still incredible. That's what Tears of the Kingdom is.
Mm-hmm.
And Tears of the Kingdom is not afraid to be like, you know what? Remember all the tools you had in the last game?
Yeah.
No more of those. Maybe like 1 or 2, but like here's a bunch of new tools. And there's one in particular. Now, we're talking about a game that's an open world game, third person, action adventure, go anywhere, do whatever. But the ability to just like be like, oh, look, like right now I'm sitting in QCTV. If I looked up at the ceiling and I was like, you know what? I want to get to the top of the building. I could like jump through it and phase through it. That ability alone, like, yeah, insane. Wouldn't it be crazy if you could just, do that? That's what this game allows you to do.
It's called Ascend, right?
I think that's what
Ascend,
it is.
yeah.
It's a crazy ability.
It feels good.
It feels
Yeah.
so good. Like you're
Yeah.
swimming through like stone and
crazy.
earth, and it's like,
It's crazy.
what? Like
Yeah.
that right there, that alone to me is like such a game-breaking mechanic for like almost any other game, right? But for this game, they're like, nope, you
Let's
can
do
use
it.
it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, you remember the old map? We have the old map, but now we've got like a map kind of like above it and then below it, and it's like, what are you
mind-blowing.
talking about?
Yeah.
Like, how is this possible?
It's crazy.
And then making a bunch of new like vehicles, like gluing all this stuff together, and like it's an amazingly fun game. It reminds me of why I love games, because exploration is appreciated. It is instilled in you. It's just so much fun. Anywhere you look, you're like, I could go over there, I can do that. It'll all benefit you.
Yep.
And you just get lost for hours. It's that classic, like, I see it in the distance, but on the way there, it took me 4 hours to do, because I was like, oh, I should do this. Look at that over here. I'm going to go talk to this guy. I love it. Tears of the Kingdom it's magical.
Yeah.
It's a magical game.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're kind of a fan too, right?
Big fan. Yeah, I mean, Breath of the Wild, the game that came before this, is one of my favorite games ever made.
So
and,
good.
That was definitely my game of the year in 2017. 2017, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the sequel to that. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. It's incredible. It did not make my top 5 just because I didn't get anywhere near completion. But I think I put like 40 hours into this game.
Yes.
And not to steal your thunder. I know
No, please.
this is your pick.
No, it's fine.
So I don't want to steal your thunder here.
Please.
I'm done with the shrines, man. I'm so burnt out on the puzzle solving. Man, please, I pray to the video game lords at Nintendo
Sure.
that they just blow up those shrines and find a new way for me to collect those seeds.
Okay, yeah.
So I can upgrade my skill sets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I think that's where I got burnt out on this game. For every innovative thing they did, they backed that up with another samey thing they pulled from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I hear you.
So, love it. It's mind-blowing. I think it's incredible. It just didn't make my top 5. But
Fair enough.
I'm glad that you put it on your list.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about it too, because like there's a few times you enter a shrine and just like a combat shrine. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't have to think right now.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, but sometimes, you be in there, I was like, what do I have to do? And
Right.
this is one of those games, like any good, especially RPG, but a game like this with all these mechanics, if you haven't played it in a while and you go into one of these and they're like, clearly the answer is one of your tools, and I'm
Yeah.
like, which ones do
Which
I
one do I
have?
use? Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, what can I do? I have to make like a hot air balloon?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh, like,
Yeah. Or you might not even have to. You could just fudge your way through it.
You can. Oh
That's
my
what's
gosh!
great about it.
I did that in this game. Like one of the first things I did, I inadvertently I didn't make a boat the way they wanted me to.
Right.
But what I did is I took a bunch of logs and then I glued them together and
Yeah.
made like a path
Yeah.
to do what I needed to do. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's what this game allows you to do.
Right.
Which I love.
It's amazing.
I love it.
It's amazing. It requires brain power, right?
does,
So
yeah.
if you're getting home from work at 9 o'clock, if you want to, but that's what's great about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it's like you can kind of just do what you want. If you just want to explore and go have fun, you can do that. But at the end of the day, you kind of need to finish those shrines.
You do need to finish the shrines.
You know, so
sure.
Getting around using your brain and doing the puzzle solving, you really can't get around it. So, you know, but great pick though. I'm definitely gonna finish it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I know there's a lot of comparisons originally when they were making this that was like, oh, is this going to be like the Majora's Mask of Breath of the Wild, where it's all the same assets, but that game, you know, Majora's Mask, whole other thing, they made it like 9 months or something
like that.
This is like clearly they had the framework from Breath of the Wild and just built literally above and below it. Like, and with the mechanics that they add, it's just like The one thing I would really love though, and I've talked about this a little bit, is just the combat. Like it's still the same. I just want it to be a little, I don't know, a little better maybe. I don't know if that's the right word.
No, I completely agree.
Meatier,
the combat is not great.
It's fine.
It's not engaging at all. It's just a very passive thing that you need to do to get you from point A to point B.
Which you can avoid it a lot of the time too. So maybe that's the point, is they didn't put a lot of as much time into it as the other things. So like you can just go around it, or you can try to like throw something and blow them all up, or whatever it might be. But I found it to be a lot of fun, and it's just one of those games that is just, it's fun to share with people. Other people can watch this along, like sitting next to you, and you're like, oh, you should try this. And you're like, oh yeah, maybe I will try that. And then it works, and you're like, oh my gosh. Like, it's just an intrinsically rewarding experience.
It's incredible. Again, a testament to this year.
Nintendo, man.
I always say Ocarina of Time, another Zelda game, is my favorite game ever. I love that franchise. For the fact that a new Zelda game didn't make my top 5, it literally just goes to show you how crazy of a year it was.
Crazy year,
You know what I mean? So
totally. Okay, so we've gotten through. Now we're into the top 2. Intense. Which Nintendo game will it be, Cory? Bayonetta 4.
No, I am done with Nintendo.
Okay, all right.
We're
done with Nintendo. Me too. Oh, wait, I don't know what we're doing. So, number 2.
Number 2, Lies of P.
Lies of P.
Lies of P. Who knew, right?
No way.
If you would have told me a year ago, I'd be like, no way. There's no way that would make my top 5.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I love this game so much. This is a Souls-like role-playing game. It's a Korean-made game. I believe the developer's called Neowitz. I'd have to look that up. I'm probably saying that wrong. So this is a steampunk Pinocchio role-playing game. Super weird, right? I would say steampunk with a little bit of emphasis on horror. So think Dark Souls with a little steampunk, but with like a little bit of Resident Evil Village. But what you have is if you played those From Software games and you love that combat, you know what you're getting. You know what you're signing up for, but you want more story, and you want something with a different visual flair other than just like knights in armor and traditional dragons and fantasy. This is your game.
Okay, cool.
So it's tight, it's polished, it feels great. You're taking like quests from Geppetto in the upper level of a mansion in the center of like this. So it's centered around like the war between humans and puppets, right? With the steampunk flair. And it just surprised me at every corner. Definitely the sleeper hit of the year, I think. Everybody going into this year was like, oh, it's Tears of the Kingdom, it's Baldur's Gate. You know what I mean? Where it's this and this and that. It's these beats that you would expect. But I was not expecting this game to blow me away the way it did. I think I dumped like 60, 70 hours into this game on Game Pass.
Wow. That's
just
incredible.
Game Pass.
Yeah, that's Game Pass.
And it's like incredible. Everything from the story to the combat to the skill trees to the boss fights, just every step of the way, it's relentless. It never disappoints. Outside of the From Software umbrella, I think this is the best one of those.
Okay, cool.
So in terms of like the Neo, the Lords of the Fallen. What was the sci-fi one where you're in the mech suits?
Oh, I was just thinking of Surge.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. There's a handful of these kind of Souls-like wannabe games. The only criticism I would give it is it's not super inspired. Like, it's very obvious they're taking inspiration for Dark Souls and Resident Evil, but the execution is so incredible. And, I know you played a little bit.
I did.
And I know this isn't really your cup of tea per se.
But still, I can appreciate it. And it felt Bloodborne-ian, if you will.
Look, if we're not going to get a sequel to Bloodborne, thank goodness we have this.
Lies of P.
Lies of P. Yeah, it's incredible. I don't really know what else to say. If you're watching this and you like those games,
Yeah.
if you don't, then don't bother because you're not gonna really find anything.
Right. Yeah.
There is some like sub-combat stuff, like you can swap out his right arm for different weapons, whether it's a flamethrower or you shoot electricity.
So cool.
Yeah, so it's one of those. It's just a really good one of those.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I can't remember. Is the main quest to become a real boy?
No.
Okay.
It's not.
Geppetto's like, collect enough puppet souls and you'll be a real boy. Like,
Yeah. It's like this high political game,
Weird.
right? With all these like so the other great thing is it's got like all these like strong like BioShock things going on.
Yes, I saw a
BioShock
little of that.
Infinite.
Yeah.
With like the politics and the culture
Hilarious.
between
Love
the
it.
locals and the puppets and all this different
it.
stuff. And I don't want to spoil anything just because it is a story-focused game. So
Okay, cool.
I don't really want to
That's fine.
give it away, but yeah, Lies of P, my second favorite game.
See, like when we went in today on this, Corey's like, I'm pretty positive we will have completely different lists. I didn't know what he was going to pick. Lies of P. I'm like,
Yeah.
I love that. That's your
Yeah.
number 2. That's great.
It's brutal and unforgiving, and this
Yeah.
game will kick your butt.
Amazing.
It's brutal, and I love it.
That's so cool.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah,
it's
what do you
my
got?
turn now. It's my turn. Okay. So, Corey, we've had a long storied history of franchise tie-ins, movie tie-ins, to well-known like films and other properties, books, and things like that. And while some have been good, a few have been great. I'm looking at you, GoldenEye. I know if I don't say GoldenEye, people will be like, why didn't you bring up GoldenEye?
Yeah.
I want to talk about one that came out this year, was a really big deal, and I have a hard time thinking, besides adding one more mode to it, how it could be much better. I'm talking, of course, about Hogwarts Legacy. This is a game that, like, if you are a fan in passing of the Harry Potter franchise, this is, like, the best one to play, bar none. Really, truly. You can tell that, like, every thought and detail was put into this, especially as you tour around as a student in Hogwarts, this legendary school. And it's so cool because I'm a fan of not only the books but the films because I grew up reading them. I'll never forget my mom introducing me to the books before like they really blew up.
Yeah.
She's like, read this, like let me know what you think. And I was as like kind of a kid and I was like, wow, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like that, but imagine that kind of as an active participant.
Right.
Now this takes place quite a bit before the events of Harry Potter.
Okay.
So you're making your own story, but of course you're playing like kind of a.
You have a character creator.
And then you get to do the whole Sorting Hat ritual, but you can really be like, let's say you answer the questions not the way that you wanted to, and they're like, all right, Corey, sounds like you're a Ravenclaw, and you're like, no, man, I'm a Hufflepuff, and you can tell that Sorting Hat. You're like, I'm Hufflepuff. I don't care what you say, and it's like, all right, you're a Hufflepuff, But of course, I'm Gryffindor. Gryffindor for life. But it's so cool to see these places brought into full 3D. Not that this is the first time this has probably happened, but to this extent, especially these other like common rooms, these other places in the castle we've never seen before, right? And not only that, but you have Hogwarts and you have Hogsmeade where you can go and shop and get a butterbeer and all that stuff. But then there's like all these little hollows and areas around that you can fly around and see too. And it's so heavily detailed, and there's so much to enjoy and appreciate from these new characters. I guess there's like maybe one or two that you're going to say, like, that's kind of familiar. I kind of know them.
Okay.
But it's such an engrossing game, and that alone would make this game like, oh, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, right.
But the combat is insane.
Okay.
It's really, really good. And I'm sure there are videos out there showing off people who are really good at the combat. I like to think I was okay at it.
Sure.
But it's a lot of like, tons of spells flipping and flying, but then you're juggling characters, especially if you want to get into the dark arts, which I may or may not have gotten into. The darkest Gryffindor you've ever seen. But at the second they allowed me to get to those unforgivable curses, I was like, yes.
That's it, yeah.
Because I'll tell you this much. The last combat encounter of the main campaign, I was able to defeat these, I won't get specific, but there's 2 characters. I was able to take them out in like 2 or 3 moves.
Oh, wow.
With the dark arts. I was like, and I don't care. I'm like a 15-year-old who doesn't care.
Yeah.
I loved it.
That's awesome.
It was so cool. It's such a cool game. And like I said before, like the level of polish and the
Yeah.
budget, you can just like, you can taste it, you can smell it.
Right.
You know? And
Yeah.
again, it's a kind of a movie franchise tie-in, but
Yeah.
it's its own thing.
Sure.
And the mode I was getting to before was that like they don't have Quidditch, at least at the time of this recording.
Got it.
Which would be hard to do. I get it.
Right.
Because if you add Quidditch, you're going to want to add like, you know, co-op or multiplayer and all that stuff, which they
Yeah.
don't currently have.
Okay.
But this game screams for something like that.
Sure.
You know, and especially co-op.
Okay.
You know, but
maybe they could do a separate Quidditch mode or
That would-
something. You
I
know.
feel like it's coming, man.
Yeah.
I feel like it's coming, but
Yeah.
was a big game early in this year, which is crazy
Yeah.
to think about because I was like, that was like
Huge
February?
success too. I think this was one of the biggest selling games of the year.
Huge.
I think I read that. Yeah.
Huge. And this is for Portkey Games, kind of like their
Okay.
debut thing, even though it's like
Interesting.
a group of people from other games, and it's Warner Brothers, so
Got it.
I don't know. It's crazy to think because like this could have easily just been like all right, play through the games,
Yeah.
Harry, you know, play through
Right.
the books and all that stuff. But it's like, nope,
Right.
you're doing your own character,
Yeah.
your own story.
Awesome.
Amazing, amazing game.
I know we're beating a dead horse. It's on my list. Like I've got.
You played it a little, didn't you?
No.
Oh, you didn't try it at all.
No, and my wife's a huge Harry Potter fan.
She's the
I was a
one.
little too old when those books came out. It
Uh-huh.
just kind of passed me by. I enjoy the movies from a distance. You know, I've seen them all, obviously.
You don't get too close to the screen. is what you're
Prisoner
saying.
of Azkaban, I think that's my favorite.
Oh, there's a
Yeah,
good one.
it's a
There's
good one.
Yeah,
but,
totally.
Anyways, yeah, man, this game looks great. Is the combat 100% wand based?
Ooh, to my understanding,
There's no like swords and
No, yeah,
battle
yeah,
axe.
no,
Okay,
no,
yeah.
no, pretty
So
much
they're
that.
sticking to the.
Yes.
Got it. That's cool though.
and you can decide if you want to play lethal or non-lethal. That's the dark arts and stuff.
Got it.
So yeah,
Got it.
Yeah,
Cool.
that'd be cool if you don't get running up on
Yeah,
a knife.
that's
You're like,
like-
out here. No, yeah,
awesome.
you get like your basic attack is just like a little
Got
wand
it.
kind of.
Got it.
You know,
Okay.
thing. But yeah,
Cool.
it feels so good, and there's like kind of combat challenge modes later on that really showcase off the ability. They're like, all right, we want you to do this thing and hit it with 15 different spells before it hits
Yeah.
the ground.
Yeah.
You do it, and you're like, wow, like
Yeah.
that was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Really, really good game.
Good pick. Yeah, I have to get around to that. I think I truly think 2024 is going to be the year of catch up for me.
Fair enough. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Get to that Alan Wake 2. I got to
Sure.
play Hogwarts.
Yep.
You know, finish
You'll get to
Zelda.
it.
Yeah.
They're
yeah.
there. They're waiting for. That's the nice thing about
Yeah.
the single player ones, especially because while the zeitgeist might not be there for it, where it's like everybody's still talking about this,
Yeah.
you can still enjoy it just quietly by yourself. And you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I like this, or not. you
Yeah.
know? But even if you're not a fan of the Harry Potter stuff, this I really think is worth your time as an action adventure
Cool.
game. It really is really, really good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good pick.
All right,
Wow.
Cory.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that.
I know.
There's one game on my mind that I don't think it's going to make it in either of our lists, but
Oh,
we'll talk
no.
about that later.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll have to address it.
I was gonna
Anyways,
say, did you want to before we do top spot? Did you have any quick honorable mentions?
Yeah, Diablo 4.
Diablo 4.
That
give
was
it a little
one.
love,
We'll
sure.
see if that ends up in your number one. I have a feeling it's not, but yeah, another one that. So I got a Xbox Series X bundle this year.
Yes.
So I upgraded my Xbox this year, and that was included. That was the Diablo bundle, and it's great. I love that game.
Yeah.
I remember thinking when I was playing it, like, oh, this is going to be my top, 3 or 4, and it didn't even make my top 5. It's just,
Yeah.
what a crazy year.
It's crazy here. Yeah.
Zelda, obviously, we already talked about that. So I think that's all that's coming to mind at the moment. It was a killer year. There were some games here that came and went,
Yeah.
obviously, that didn't make the cut. But how about you?
Sea of Stars. I have to just
Yeah.
briefly mention that. I think we might have talked about it on the show previously, but it's
Right.
a really nice game, JRPG style, old school.
Yeah.
And again, thanks to Game Pass. Like
Yeah.
we're not sponsored by Game Pass, but Phil,
Yeah.
please call me. I would
Yeah.
love to figure that out.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, Sea of Stars. That's the one I was like, oh, it was gonna be in my top 5.
Yeah.
But then I remembered, of course, like Tears of the Kingdom. I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, and Super Mario RPG. I mean, I mentioned that earlier, but if it comes down to the two RPGs, I'd probably take Super Mario first.
Okay.
Sea of Stars is much more like, you got to be dedicated. It's like a 25, 30 hour,
Right.
experience.
Right.
So I have to say that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good pick. Yeah, that's another one on my list because I love those old school 16-bit Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, dude, it's like that, man. Yep.
Secret of Mana,
Yep,
those
yep.
kind of old school
Totally,
games.
totally.
So awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Honorable mentions out of the way. Here we are.
Yeah.
Number 1.
Number 1, GoldenEye for N64. No, I'm just kidding. I gotta go. You mentioned it earlier.
That would have been I was like, wait a sec. What year is
I
it?
think they did re-release that this year.
I bet. Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
they did
yeah,
that.
you're
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Marvel Snap. It's
Dude.
It's my game of the year.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. I don't like card games.
Amazing.
I am not in the card game demographic.
Yep.
You know, Hearthstone, whatever. You know, like aside from like online poker or you know what I mean. I'm just not a card guy, card game guy. And Marvel Snap is it's one of my favorite games ever made.
Yeah.
It's genius. It's brilliant. You know, just aside from the way you play the game, the way they tapped into my 90s card collecting Marvel nostalgic blew my mind.
Yeah.
You know, partnering with, you know, I'll just drop a couple names, but like Jim Lee, who was a famous 90s, you know, he was the one that kind of brought X-Men back to life, right, in 92.
Okay, cool.
Now they're bringing back X-Men 97 with this new animated series, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so this is a online, strictly multiplayer Marvel card game. And I must have played hundreds of hours of this game this year. It just took me by storm. I willingly dumped money into this. You don't have to.
Okay.
It does not prey on your instincts to the pay to win.
Yeah.
They handle this game very well. And yeah, it is a Marvel collecting card battling game.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How did this make my #1 game of the year? And I had some tough times this year. I had some health problems, you know, and I have physical health problems. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
We're good. But like this game got me through some tough times this
Yeah.
year. You know what I mean? Like, okay, it's a great distraction. Just pull out the phone. So technically this game came out late last year. The reason I think it made the cut this year is they launched it on Steam this year.
Okay. Yeah.
So technically it is a 2023 release.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's incredible. Everything from the artwork to the collecting aspect to the upgrading to the actual playing of the game.
Yeah.
They just nailed it. They just nailed it. And if you are, especially if you grew up in the 90s,
Yeah.
you know, there was a store nearby called Shinder's.
Dude, I was just talking about Shinders yesterday.
Really?
Shinders.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to Shinders, man.
Yeah,
I loved
Shinders.
it.
Yeah.
Yes. Ah.
And it was a big deal. You grew up in the 90s, you would go, either it was baseball cards, football cards, or it was Marvel comic book cards.
Cool.
And you would get your book and you would put them in the thing and collect the thing, opening the pack, see what you're going to get.
Yep.
This game taps into that in a dangerous way.
That scares
Everything
me.
down to how the cards open. And but it's not malicious. It's not predatory. You could totally play this game and not spend $1.
Okay.
And honest to God, it's one of the best Marvel things I've ever seen or interacted with.
Cool.
Just based on the sheer amount of characters and the artwork and the description of the cards. It's great. I just, as someone that grew up with Marvel in the 90s, like this game, it's made for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, crazy.
It's fascinating. Okay, so now that you've had more time with it, has there ever been a moment or two where you up against another opponent? Because you can play against NPCs, but you mainly play against other people, right?
You know what? I don't know if they insert bots, if there's like the servers aren't giving you someone to play with.
Okay.
I don't think you're playing. I think it's 100% multiplayer focused.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you ever felt like you've gone up against someone where you're like, there was no way I could win this because they bought a bunch of cards?
So dude, it's a whole thing. We don't have time for this, but like there is a whole online. I mean, there are YouTubers that I think have like millions of subscribers just on Marvel Snap. It's a whole thing.
Amazing.
Deck building,
Amazing.
lore, like, oh, they just nuked this card. This card is now OP. Don't use this card anymore. Do this. It's a whole thing.
Hearthstone all over again.
Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question very well.
Sure.
But yes, obviously, but you learn.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, like I've actually had like spreadsheets of people that I've played against and like, okay, that's what they used. I need to build that deck.
Cool.
But I don't have that card yet. I need Wong.
That's what you need. Yeah.
I need Wong or whatever. That's just an example. Or I need Iron Man or it's fair play.
Yeah.
You know, they don't really sell cards to win, so you're never going to play against someone that has a card that they bought that card.
Okay, gotcha.
That doesn't exist. They have to either unlock that card by playing or they have to pull it from like a lotto, and they just got really lucky.
Okay, gotcha.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, it does a little bit, and I played a little bit of it, and I dabbled with Warcraft Rumble this year too.
Yeah,
which
right.
was also in a similar thing. It had me for a little bit, but on these things I typically kind of tend to drop off. It's almost like my brain's like, you're either going to be like way into this or you need to leave it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
My question for you though, before we move on to mine, is top 3 favorite cards or characters in the game. If you think of them.
That's really tough. I think I have like 6 different decks.
Yeah. And you can build around a character, right? Kind of, sort of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to go Claw. You're never going to hear these characters.
Claw.
Dude.
Oh my gosh.
Onslaught.
You've got Onslaught?
Onslaught.
I
and
love Onslaught.
Either Devil Dinosaur or Iron Man. Those are ongoing cards. That's not going to make any more sense. But it's not like, oh, my favorite characters are Spider-Man, Captain America, and Thor.
Dude, yeah,
it's really not how it
Yeah.
works. It works on how you build your deck. So that's what's great is you get to learn other like C and B tier Marvel characters that you would never play.
Yes.
So
And we're talking Onslaught like Magneto, Xavier combined Onslaught.
Yes.
Weird creep.
right.
That's amazingly weird. I love
Right.
that. That's so cool.
It's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's hundreds of Marvel cards in this
Okay,
game. So
cool.
it's, anyways, let's move on.
I mean, I was
because
just, I was
you need to stop me.
I was like, now I feel like after this, I'm gonna like re-download it. And
I
be
want to
like,
make
all
sure
right.
we have time to talk about what.
We will.
Okay,
Trust me. Don't
okay.
worry about that. But okay, so Marvel Snap. Can you also, last question, like as far as like partying and stuff like that, could like you and I play each other? Like, could I like find you and be like,
I don't know if there is matchmaking.
Yeah.
We'll look when we're done.
well, look, okay, cool.
But I don't think so, unfortunately.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
you
But that would be amazing.
That'd be, yeah, you teach me.
There might be. We'll look.
Okay,
we'll take a look.
Okay. Marvel Snap. I think you said earlier this year, I think you even told me like Marvel Snap might be my game of the year.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'll see about that. And
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm glad that it is, man.
Yeah.
What a cool,
Hundreds of hours.
cool choice.
Yeah.
Well, my game that I'm picking for my game of the year is one that came to me recently. It's been out for quite a while, but it fully launched this year. It is not a surprise to anybody who's been probably following games coverage or anything quite like that. That is Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3, man, I've been playing it with my buddies. It is just, it's all the stuff Larian has been building from with the Divinity Original Sin games and finally getting into Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
It feels like Divinity Original Sin 3,
Okay.
but like with even better cinematics, better facial animations, better characterization. The combat feels a little more streamlined, maybe a little.
Okay.
But there's abilities that you didn't have that I can recall in Divinity, where it's a lot of like, when you get into these turn-based fights, it's like, yeah, you can attack somebody, but then also you could shove them.
Okay.
Like shove them off of a building or shove them into a chasm or stuff like that. So there's a lot of strategy that's involved. And it's just such a fun game, and it's like it eats up hours and hours so easily. You're like, all right, we're just gonna do this like one thing, and then you're like, it's 8 hours later, like,
Man.
oh my gosh, what
Yeah.
happened? One of the marks and crowning achievements I think for this game is I've got a buddy named Joe. Shout out Joe, and he is a Call of Duty guy.
Okay.
First-person shooter, fast-paced, has no like real desire typically to dive
Strategy.
into this type of thing.
Right.
He is slowly, he took the leap. He's been playing. He is enjoying it. It's a lot,
Yeah.
but I think he's starting to understand it a little bit more.
Okay.
He started off with a paladin, which is a little bit hard, especially early on in these types of games where you don't have access to all the fun abilities, and especially a melee class where it's like, all right, maybe the best thing you can do this turn is just run up and attack a thing.
Sure.
It's not as fun.
Right.
But as you build out your class, you start to get more and more fun things to do.
Cool.
And yeah, it's just been a real treat. Larian just crushed it. I'm so happy that they're getting the recognition they've deserved for a long time. You guys have really deserved for a long time, because it's like easy to look at a game like this, and a few years ago, if Zelda is out the same year, it's like, well, it's gonna be Zelda,
Right.
right? And
Right.
this is a CRPG. This is a commitment.
Yep.
It's not a thing. You can drop in and drop out if you want, but it's like, this is something that's going to take you a long time,
Right.
And I'm just happy that people were giving it a chance, because there's so much game here. There's so much to love, and so many different ways to play it.
Yeah.
There's so much freedom. Kind of talking about like Tears of the Kingdom, like doing stuff in a different way, like playing through the same scenario multiple times on different games with my friends, and being like, well, the last time we did this, we got ganged up and we got attacked. Or this time, we made through the checks on the dice rolls and we just talked our way through it, which is just, it's so much fun. It is so much fun. It's an incredible game, an achievement. And if you have friends to play this with, this is another one of those, like, probably should play with friends, you know, if you can, because it'll make your whole experience all the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they won Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
Which is great.
Jeff Keighley's show. I don't
Jeff Keighley. Shout out Jeff.
Yeah.
Waiting for Jeff to come on the show.
Yeah.
Great, Jeff. You're welcome anytime.
And I'm happy for him. Like you mentioned Zelda. That is no small feat to go up against a juggernaut like.
Oh my gosh.
Like
Well, that's
Tears of the
Spider-Man.
Kingdom. Yeah, right.
Hogwarts, all this.
So, yeah, I'm happy for him. This, I think I threatened the last time, once I finished Spider-Man 2, this is the next game I'm going to pick up.
Dude.
And they just, you know, we knew it was coming, but they dropped it on Xbox, like the night of the Game Awards, like after they took or maybe it was the next day or later that night, but...
or just before.
Yeah.
It was something like that.
So, someone that hasn't played... So, I played Baldur's Gate 2 way back in the day.
Okay.
Way back. It's been a long time, so walk me through a typical combat scenario in this game, if we have time.
Oh, yeah, we got time. Yeah.
Okay, so walk me through how that works.
So basically, like, let's say we starting off, we roll initiative,
Okay.
right? We're
So,
getting in
so
a
there's
fight.
actually a dice that's being rolled on screen.
Well, it'll say rolling initiative, and then it'll just pop up. So there's a lot of
Okay.
dice rolls going on behind the scenes.
So it's straight up D&D.
Straight up D&D, and you'll only see the dice rolls if you're making like checks. So it'll be like, hey, Corey's gonna go try to lockpick this thing.
Yep.
And then it'll be like, all right, roll the dice, and then you'll see if you have any bonuses or whatever in negatives. But anyway, so you get in a fight, and then on the top of the screen, it'll show the order of everybody who's gonna go.
Okay.
So it might be like me, and then like an enemy, you, and then another enemy, and cycle back around. And basically, what you do is like if you're gonna go and you get your action, you get movement, you get these bonus actions depending on your class, and that's what you're gonna get to do in your turn.
Okay.
Right. The rest of the time, you're just kind of standing there.
Okay.
Just
Got it.
hanging out,
Interesting, yeah.
waiting.
Yeah.
And that's where, like I said, this is the antithesis to something like Call of Duty, where it's
Right.
like, all right,
Requires
Corey,
patience.
especially with your buddies, which I love my buds, but like
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, guys, we're taking a long time to figure out this move here, but
Yeah.
it's so critical that you think about what you're gonna do because it can have huge ramifications.
Right. So the game is not forcing you to move on.
No.
It allows you the time to figure out your move.
Take your time.
Interesting.
Huge take
So you're
your time.
physically in your room or wherever you're at your house or your apartment,
Yeah.
you're physically sitting there waiting for your buddy
Yep.
to make their decision.
Yep.
Got it. So if you're single player, you make the decision for everybody?
So yeah, your party, you would make all those decisions,
Got
but
it.
the NPCs, because they're NPCs,
Yeah.
who you're fighting, their turns are fast.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
you don't have to sit around. They're like, they don't hem and haw like us humans do. They're like, I'm doing this. You're like, okay. You're like, we got a problem.
Because that's basically AI kicks in at that point.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds cool.
The funny thing is, I don't know if the game means to do this, but it will, so you want to save a lot.
Yeah.
But if you, fight a group that's harder than you or stronger than you, and you get to a certain point in it, and the game kind of realizes you're doing well, it will just auto-save. It's like, you're going to win. We just want to make sure that you're good.
Yeah.
It's like, thank
That's
you.
funny.
I appreciate that. But yeah, every combat encounter feels like life or death. And maybe it's just because we're doing it wrong or we're going to the wrong places, but we fight tooth and nail, you know, to win these things. Sometimes we come out, as I say, not only by the skin of our teeth, but the skin of our teeth.
Okay,
like, oh my gosh, like how did we survive?
How did we survive?
That?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just love Baldur's Gate 3.
Wow.
It's an incredible game. Larian, you're a fantastic. Thank you for persevering and making this insane game. Truly crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get around to it. It's a common sentiment going on right now.
Anytime you want to party up,
Yeah.
I'll re-roll a character. in a
Yeah,
heartbeat.
might have to do that.
I would love to.
Man, Diablo didn't make our list.
I can't believe Diablo didn't make our list. That's okay,
for
Diablo.
sure it would be on your list. But
There's always next year Diablo.
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
always
Poor
next year.
Diablo.
I still like Diablo. Honorable mention Diablo.
Yeah, totally. Wow.
This is so much fun talking about this.
Yes. Yeah. 10 killer games.
10 killer games, no wrong answers. Whatever your favorite game is, that's the best game.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I say.
Right.
Whatever you like the most.
We had an Assassin's Creed this year that we didn't even play.
I'm coming back, Mirage.
Talk about it.
I'm coming back, Mirage, next
Yeah.
week. I'm going to sit there and just play Mirage.
Alan Wake 2, neither of us played it.
Yeah.
I know there's others too.
There are others.
You know,
We'll come back.
crazy.
We'll come back. They're waiting for us.
Yeah.
You know, they'll be on Game Pass eventually. But thank you, Corey, for another amazing year.
Yes.
You're doing Game Sharks not only here, but kind of abroad in a way. Not really, but digitally speaking.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody here at QCTV making this happen.
Yes.
Like, seriously, all the people behind the scenes, there's tons of people who make this happen.
CJ and Pat.
Thank you guys and everybody throughout all of this, and Corey doing all the editing and just keeping the show alive.
Yeah.
And thank you, dear viewer, most of all, for watching. Appreciate you very much. And until next year, take care and happy holidays.